I always say this on all of my shows. I said it yesterday. I'll repeat it again here for the audience. When we talk about 6-point teasers, we only want to do minus 120. Best price in the market, going through the key numbers of 3 and 7. That being said, why is it smart to wait on pushing the Seahawks up from 2.5 to 8.5?
Because I'm not sure you're going to be going through the 3 and 7.
Back here on A Numbers Game, I'm Scott Seidenberg in for Gil here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. And joining me now in studio is two-time Super Contest winner. He is Mr. Steve Fezzik, who you often see alongside Gil here on A Numbers Game in his normal Friday segment. Fez, I feel it's like the ultimate crossover, as one of our listeners tweeted at me. It's like when a TV show crosses over characters. This is like you and I now crossing over from all the podcasts that we do every single week to now being here in for Gil.
Throw mama from the train. Crisscross. Crisscross.
Well, I talked about Army-Navy. Before we get into the NFL, let's talk about the Army-Navy game real quick, because I know that you're on the under. You tweeted that out. You made no secrets about it. The whole world is on the under. 17 of the last 18 years, this game has gone under. I like Army laying the 6.5, but I actually think this game goes over. I'm just afraid to bet the over because I'm going against the market.
Yeah, and well, you're going against, if you look back just the last 10 years, they haven't gotten past 38 points, and they've had overtime games. And I think that at some point, I like fading trends that just happen by happenstance under a harvest moon when the Bengals are playing the Browns and the temperature's below 50 degrees. This happens. It's just random noise. But here's an example where obviously both these teams in chess terms they play an opening that's an inferior opening. It's a bad opening, the option. It's like if everyone played the option, no one would score because it's not, the forward pass is optimal. But because it's so quirky, it works when you play against Memphis or teams like that. But when you have to play another team that's used to playing against this chess opening that sucks each and every day in practice, guess what? It doesn't work, and so no one can capture the other team's king, so no one can score. So the under makes sense.
Yeah, like I said, 17 of the last 18 years have gone under. These have been one-score games. 8 of the last 10 years between these two teams have been decided by one score. Hey, 6.5 is still one score. So I can cover the 7.
Is 7.5 one score?
7.5. Oh, it could be, yeah.
It's one possession.
It's one possession. It's actually 2 scores if you count the 2-point conversion as a score. But yes, the market has been dipping down here on the total. 38.5s we're seeing across. There's a 39, 38.5. So make sure you keep an eye on what the market is doing as we lead up to kickoff of Army-Navy coming up tomorrow. Speaking of the market, Fez, let's go to the NFL where we see a bad team. And what do we mean by bad team? I mean, the Carolina Panthers have 3 wins, okay? I actually don't consider them a bad team. Their record is bad, but I don't think they're that bad. They've covered 5 straight games, and you could argue, as I have, they're playing better as of late in these past couple of games. Look no further than the last 3 games that they lost after their bye, where they arguably could have won all 3 of those games. Now they're 2.5 to 3-point favorites over the Dallas Cowboys, who have more wins than them, who have a bigger name brand than them, who some would say are a better football team than the Carolina Panthers, yet the Panthers are favored. Is the market telling us the Panthers are the side?
No, the market is telling you the Panthers were the side. All right? So
explain.
Because on the look-ahead line, the Panthers were plus 1.5. And then on the early week line, I give this out to my clients, Carolina minus 120.
Okay.
Readily available. What's changed since Sunday night, Monday morning? Nothing. Nothing has changed.
Well, maybe the injury, well, actually probably worse on Dallas with the injury news of DeMarvion Overshawn being out.
Yes.
So the news has gotten worse for Dallas. That's probably the only thing I can think of that has changed.
Sure, fair enough. But the bottom line is that now, like I used to run betting syndicates, all right? I know Fezzik's the old guy, get off his lawn, was lousy in the VSiN invitation. I got eliminated, and largely true. But the bottom line is, I can tell you, if you submitted a ticket, you said, we got Carolina minus 3, Fez, I put that into our portfolio, you'd be fired. You would literally what am I paying you for? It's like the idea is you want to do your homework throughout the week, the betting cycle, get the best of it. We talk about Army Navy. I'm fine if you want to play over 37 a post. Fine, that's don't play over 39. But like with Carolina, you got to get a Carolina certainly at less than 3. So if you get a Carolina and get a minus 2.5, lay $1.10 still. I would endorse that. Anything more, I think it's just become too expensive.
So yeah, so you would say, or if you played it early, obviously, then you accept playing in Carolina. You mentioned minus 120, money lines up to now minus 150, even minus 155.
Would you play a baseball game? Would you play the Cincinnati Cincinnati Reds, minus 155, knowing you could have played minus 120 earlier in the betting cycle.
No, because
rarely, right? Rarely.
Yeah, I'd feel terrible about that.
Yeah.
And I do it in hockey all the time sometimes. Like I feel like I had the Devils last night at minus 155. I could have had it at minus 135.
Now, when something changes dramatically, okay, that's different. So if you had gotten the weather report, like it was going to pour cats and dogs in the second quarter, that's different. Well, then you could say, I'll play under 47.5, even though I could have played under 49, right? That's fine. That's different.
And so looking at the market, there actually is still 2.5s out there that are available. Slightly juiced, so minus 115. So you would say the line is like between 2.5 to 3.
Yeah, so at 2.75, and so no secret, like I'm maniacal about these 3-point spreads, and a big reason is like I ran a syndicate betting parlay cards, and you can go back and ask the sportsbook directors; they'll all confirm it. Joe Lupo hates me, but like we loved the NFL 3, we loved it so much because even if it was a solid 3, if you could play plus 3.5, if you can play plus 3.5 to this day or minus 2.5, those are 55% bets, either one. Okay, so. Getting the best of a 3, especially if it moves to the other side of the 3, and you can get if you can lay 2.5 in a game that's 3.15, or if you can get plus 3.5 in a game that's 2.85. What do I mean by 2.85? Like I'd say this Carolina game right now, right around 2.75, right? Split 2.5 to 3 on the odds screen.
Makes sense. Another game that's kind of similar if we look at the odds board is the Green Bay-Seattle Sunday night game, where earlier in the week it was Seattle plus 3. Now it's down to 2.5 as we've seen money come in on the Seahawks, which has pushed Green Bay. I'm seeing here at circa 2.5, minus 115 on Green Bay.
So the pros don't always agree on things. Okay, we have disagreement on games. So like early in the week, Right Angle Sports gave out the Packers minus 2.5. All right, and it went to 3. Now, on the look-ahead lines, I gave out Seattle plus 3. That was one of my look-ahead plays I gave here with Gilly last Friday. So I was disappointed that number had disappeared. Thank you, Raz, for moving the number back to 3. And I just think they're completely wrong. I could be wrong. But I like my power ratings, I have the Packers 2 points better than Seattle. So how, when the game is in the Pacific Northwest with the 12th man, and a big home field, both these teams have big home fields, can Seattle possibly be catching a full field goal? It makes no sense. I mean, you can talk about situational matchups, whatever. It's just, it doesn't, even if the Packers had it, Seattle's, from a power rating perspective, I make the game pick 'em, so I have to play plus 3 big.
Speaking of Seattle, last night we saw the Rams beat the 49ers, which improved their odds to win the NFC West. They are in control of their own path, actually. All they got to do is just win out, and if they beat Seattle the final game of the season, they're going to be the NFC West champs. They have a much easier schedule. The next 2 weeks, they're going to be favored against the Jets. They're going to be favored against the Cardinals, and then the game against the Seahawks. The Seahawks, meanwhile, after this game against Green Bay, which they are 2.5-point dogs, they're going to have to face the Vikings. What would you set that line at right now based on what happens here on Sunday night? So if a win or a loss?
It probably doesn't matter unless it's a blowout. And it's a really easy line to set because the Packers and the Vikings are almost equal teams. So if my numbers make Seattle pick 'em, but the market says that Seattle should be a 2.5-point dog, I think the perception is Green Bay slightly better than Minnesota. So I mean, Minnesota has to be a small favorite of less than 3.
I'm glad you said that. Because the look-ahead line right now up on DraftKings is Minnesota minus 2.5 at minus 110. Now, if we think Minnesota and Green Bay are even teams, and the line on Minnesota-Seattle is minus 2.5, if Green Bay becomes a 3-point favorite, inherently, isn't there value on the Seattle plus 3?
Oh, of course. Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, and this is a case where I never bet plus 2.5. And I'm arguing with people on Twitter and, like, I get frustrated sometimes because I'll say things and like I go back to go find 100 geeks from the Ivy Leagues that bet sports for a living. It's not my opinion. They'll agree with me. All right.
Yeah.
And maybe they're all wrong. Maybe it's wrong to double A7 against a 4, but probably it's right because that's what every good author tells you to do. But asymmetric risk. If a line is 2.5, I don't bet plus 2.5. Even if I like the game, because there's been so many games, Scott, where I said there is no way this line could possibly go to Minnesota minus 3. But as sure as the sun comes up tomorrow, I might be betting Seattle plus 3, just based upon which way the wind blows at some point in this betting cycle.
Well, coming up next, I think I'm going to make Steve Fezzik proud, like a proud papa watching his child grow or a proud teacher watching his student graduate, because I'm going to tell you why the Seahawks are one of my favorite teaser legs of the week. He's Steve Fezzik, two-time Super Contest winner. I'm Scott Seidenberg. This is A Numbers Game. We're in for Gil Alexander here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Scott Seidenberg back here on A Numbers Game, in for Gil Alexander here alongside two-time Super Contest winner Steve Fezzik, professional handicapper, professional bettor.
I'm a much better
it's
than
a better
handicapper.
Term. It's I'm better.
I'm a much better gambler than I am just like a pure handicapper.
Well, I don't know anybody better at the actual execution of the bets than Mr. Steve Fezzik. Speaking of the execution of bets, I teased out a teaser last segment saying Seahawks plus 8.5 and maybe pairing them up with the Buffalo Bills going from 2.5 to 8.5. But at the current market, Fez, you would say wait on the Seahawks 6-point teaser. Now, again, I always say this on all of my shows. I said it yesterday. I'll repeat it again here for the audience. When we talk about 6-point teasers, we only want to do minus 120. The best price in the market, minus 120 on the 6-point teaser, and only to do the traditional Wong teasers going through the key numbers of 3 and 7. That being said, why is it smart to wait on pushing the Seahawks up from 2.5 to 8.5?
Because I'm not sure you're going to be going through the 3 and 7. I think likely you will. I think this game will close 2.25. What's Fezzik talking about with 2.25? That means the market will be 2s and 2.5s. But what if I'm wrong? What if, obviously, you heard support earlier in the week at VSiN about playing Green Bay. What if this line goes to 3 or 2.75 even? So there's 2.5s and 3s, and you could bet a plus 3. Just mathematically, betting a plus 3 minus 110 lays over playing a teaser. Why? Because when you play a teaser on each leg, you're essentially playing plus 8.5 minus 280. Each leg, don't say, Fez, I'm not laying minus 280. I'm laying minus 120. I assure you, you're laying minus 280.
Yeah, if you parlay two minus 280s together, it's minus 120.
Exactly. Yeah. So you are indeed laying plus 8.5, laying minus 280, and that is an inferior bet than playing a plus 3, even laying minus 115. So you need to be cool. You need to wait and see where this line goes. And if you know what? If you see a 2, hit a sharp book, bingo, then go right ahead and fire in a teaser. You need a dance partner with it, though, right?
Well, I was thinking the Buffalo Bills going up from 2.5 to 8.5 against the Detroit Lions.
The only trepidation I have with it, and I like it, is the 54.5 total. So all things being equal, I like 37 totals, and I don't like 54 totals because there's inherently more variance. By the way, with all this teasers and basic strategy, Stanford Wong wrote a book, Sharp Sports Betting, and he has an entire chapter on what exactly a Wong teaser is, because this has gotten so misconstrued. People believe a 6.5-point favorite teasing them to a half-point favorite is a Wong teaser. People believe an 8-point road favorite teasing them to minus 2 is a Wong teaser. It is not. Get Stanford Wong's book. I know Stanford well. And Don Pizitsky, by the way, wrote a book on Win More, Lose Less before Stanford did, and he talked about these teasers also.
One other teaser that I think would qualify is taking the Minnesota Vikings at 7.5 down to 1.5. At 7, I don't think I would include it in a teaser. At 7.5, I would.
Yeah, so then the Vikings were like 6.95 in the market, so you can even get a minus 7 even money. What's interesting with the Vikings, I like the Vikings, so I think the line's going to go higher.
Yeah.
So I'd be fine with
especially because it's a Monday game.
Yes, and my power ratings make the game 8, and the Vikings were just laying 3.5 at Chicago, and they're up 11 late in the game. So if they're laying 3.5 at Chicago and the Vikings are surging and the Bears stink, clearly the Vikings minus 7 looks cheap even at that number. You don't even have to pay vig. So I'm fine with the Vikings being included.
Let's talk about some of your best bets here for week number 15, Fez. You were on the Rams last night. Congratulations. Cashed that one with them winning.
Gave it back with the Niners, played the money line back, so I wound up losing on the game. So be it.
Now, why did you do that?
Because the Niners, I bumped their power rating 1.5 after they outgained the Bears 300-4 in the first half.
But did the number get to a point where you felt that it was a buy point on the 49ers?
Yeah, so I upgraded the Niners 1.5, and the market downgraded them. From the look ahead, the Niners were, the line was Niners minus 3, and then the Niners were minus 2.5.
Yes.
Which didn't make any sense to me for that much of an adjustment.
So he found value once it went down. Once the line went down,
and then
he found
the wrong
value.
Team won by 3.
Yes.
Which it frequently does.
Yes. You like a couple of plays here. Let's get into them for week 15. Let's start with the Cleveland Browns against the Kansas City Chiefs. Part of me is rooting for you just because I want to watch Jameis Winston have a post-game press conference after he wins, because he's the most entertaining guy to watch in sports right now.
Okay, let's be fair. I don't like the Browns at all +4 at the current number, so $80 fine. These are plays I gave out last week on Gilly's show, and that's why you got to tune in. We are going to have 2 plays, look-ahead lines. So I gave out Cleveland +6 a week ago, so I'm taking a victory lap at closing line value, and shows how, why am I able to get like such good CLV here when I'm playing these games a week ahead of time, CLV closing line value? Because I'm playing checkers. I'm playing against the bookmakers line look ahead. I'm not playing against the world that has hammered all these lines into play. So just to summarize, last week I gave out the Rams +3. I also gave out the Browns +6, Eagles -4.5, Bucks +3. You can still bet that, so that's still bettable. Seattle +3. You probably are going to be able to maybe be able to find that. And long dunzo gone, I gave out the Bills Lions Scott over 51.5. I don't. That number's going, boys, and it ain't coming back.
At what point, though? We always talk about playing back. At what point would you play back on that game?
55. Sammy Hagar. I can't score 55.
But let's talk about some of these games, though. So you did like Cleveland at +6. Obviously, you don't like it now at +4. But just overall in that game, I mean, we're seeing Kansas City win these games but not cover at a historic rate. This is now 7 straight games that they have not covered against the spread.
And what a contrast. You watch those flaky Bengals at the end of the game. Woo, let's get in the end zone, right? As contrasted by Kansas City, let's gain 6 yards to Kelsey, catch a pass on his knees.
And have our third-string kicker kick a field goal.
And ricochet, the art of the dump, like the color of money. Make it look like you're trying to miss the field goal. Ricochet it off the goalpost. But Kansas City's very adept at that 4-minute offense, doing just enough to win. So, gun to my head, I would still look Browns, but nothing has changed really, and you're getting 2 points less.
Speaking of lines that have changed, what's your take on that Steelers game against the Eagles now? You like the Eagles. You gave it out at -4.5. We're looking at the market now, and we're seeing Philadelphia is laying 5. There's 5.5s on the board here, Fez.
I hate to go against Tomlin as a dog. It's been so strong, and it makes sense. But and I keep hearing the Eagles have internal problems, and A.J. Brown, if you're a wide receiver, just shut up and catch the ball. Stop crying for the ball in the media. But I have the Eagles. I've been super high on the Eagles all year long. I got them in Baltimore as my best teams in the NFL, so my power ratings like Eagles.
Eagles right now, 5.5 in the Steelers. I'm on the Steelers. Full disclosure, I love Pittsburgh in this spot. 5.5 just feels like too much in a game that I think is going under. I think this is a low-scoring game. You mentioned A.J. Brown, though, and it's very interesting because Kelly and I talked about this when we were previewing the 49ers game from last night, as we talk about the squeaky wheel getting the grease, right? Deebo Samuel talks. And by the way, Deebo, if you're going to complain about not getting the football, maybe you should try catching the football when it's thrown to you, because that could have been a touchdown that changed the entire game. I'm not sure
the Rams were the right side last night. When having watched the game, boy, there was a couple spots. Certainly if it had kept raining, that would have, I think, benefited the Niners more. But that Deebo
catches that ball. He's running into the end zone for a touchdown.
And the Niners win.
And the Niners win that game. But you mentioned A.J. Brown. He's another guy who's been complaining. Would you look towards A.J. Brown props to think that maybe Jalen Hurts is going to look and target him early?
Well, in pre-production, we looked up the first drive, right? A.J. Brown to get a catch, hey, all right, fine. Well, here you go. Throw him a quick slant and get him on the board so he's not on my back all game long if he's bagels in the first half, right?
See, that's the way I think. And the market right now, let's see. A.J. Brown to catch a pass on the Eagles' first offensive drive is -110. You got to think, and it doesn't always happen, but I know we had cashed this with the Malik Neighbors, with the Giants earlier in the season, and it just seems to always happen where these teams or these quarterbacks focus in on getting the guy the football just to say, hey, we heard you all week. Even with the 49ers, first drive, Deebo Samuel got a pass thrown at his way. He didn't catch it, but they threw at him. Second play of the game, they said, hey, Deebo, here you go. Dropped it, or it was incomplete. I think A.J. Brown, it's going to be the same thing. I think on the first Eagles possession, they give A.J. Brown one of those short screen passes. Just put the ball in his hands and say, here you go.
Or first quarter,
or first quarter catch
you can play
do
usage, yeah.
if you don't want to do that.
Thanks for watching, but don't let the betting insights end here. If you want an extra edge this football season, you can get a month of VSiN Pro right now absolutely free. That means access to our betting insights, analysis, and tools like our betting splits at zero cost to you. Click the link in the description to sign up.